The morning sun spilled through the towering glass windows of the Reed mansion, bathing the marble floors in gold. The house gleamed like something out of a magazine, polished, silent, and almost too perfect. Alexander Reed, the billionaire owner of Reed Enterprises, sat at the breakfast table scrolling through his phone, his face hidden behind a newspaper and the cold distance of a man who had everything, yet nothing that truly mattered. Across from him, his new wife Vanessa sipped orange juice from a crystal glass, admiring her reflection in the silver cutlery. She was breathtaking, elegant in her silk robe, her hair styled flawlessly even this early in the morning. To anyone looking from the outside, they were the picture of success and love. But behind those walls, the truth was colder than the marble beneath their feet. At the far end of the table sat little Ethan, 6 years old, his tiny legs swinging from the chair. He poked at his pancakes quietly, watching his father and Vanessa in silence. He missed the days when his real mom would smile at him and sneak chocolate chips into his breakfast. That was before the accident that took her away, before his dad remarried so quickly. "Eat faster, Ethan," Vanessa said sharply, not even looking at him. "The driver is waiting to take you to school." Her tone was polished but empty, the kind of sweetness that melted into bitterness after every word. Ethan nodded and took a small bite, his eyes glistening. Maria, the housemaid, entered quietly, carrying a tray of fresh fruit. She noticed Ethan's untouched food and smiled kindly. "Would you like some strawberries, sweetheart?" she asked softly. Ethan's face lit up, but before he could answer, Vanessa's eyes snapped up. "Maria, he doesn't need more sugar," Vanessa said curtly. "You spoil him too much. That's why he's so clingy." Maria lowered her gaze and murmured, "Yes, ma'am." She placed the tray down and backed away, but her heart ached. She'd been in this house since Alexander's first wife was alive. She had seen the warmth it once held, the laughter that echoed through the halls, all gone now, replaced by cold politeness and silence. Alexander glanced up briefly, sensing the tension but choosing to ignore it. He was a man of logic, not emotion. He believed providing money, comfort, and education was enough for his son. What he didn't realize was that Ethan needed something far more valuable: love. When Alexander left for work, Vanessa finally relaxed, tossing her napkin aside. "Honestly," she muttered, scrolling through her phone, "that child never stops staring at me. It's creepy." Maria clenched her hands behind her apron. "He's just trying to know you better, ma'am. He misses his mother." Vanessa scoffed. "I'm not here to play mommy, Maria. My job is to make this house look good and host Alexander's guests." "That's it." She stood up, her heels clicking across the floor as she left the dining room, perfume trailing behind her like smoke. Ethan watched her go, then turned to Maria. "Did I make her mad again?" he asked in a trembling voice. Maria knelt beside him and brushed a hand through his soft brown hair. "No, sweetheart, you didn't. She just doesn't understand how lucky she is to have you." He smiled weakly. "Will Daddy come home early today?" "Maybe," Maria said gently. "But even if he doesn't, I'll be here. We can play after you finish school, okay?" Ethan nodded, a small spark of comfort returning to his eyes. He hugged his toy car close, a little red one that used to belong to his mom, before running off with his backpack. Maria stood there watching him, her heart heavy. Somewhere deep down, she knew something wasn't right in this house anymore. It looked grand, but it had lost its soul. And as Vanessa's laughter echoed from upstairs while she took another selfie, Maria whispered under her breath, "He deserves better than this." She didn't know then that soon, she would be the one standing between that innocent boy and a tragedy that could have destroyed him forever. The evening air outside the mansion was thick with rain, thunder rumbling in the distance. Inside, the chandeliers sparkled as laughter and music filled the vast dining hall. Vanessa floated among her guests like a queen, her diamond earrings catching every flicker of light. The sound of clinking glasses and shallow compliments surrounded her. For her, this was happiness, attention, admiration, envy. Ethan, wearing a small suit that seemed too stiff for him, stood quietly near the stairs. Maria had dressed him earlier, hoping Vanessa would let him stay close to his father. But Alexander was away on a business trip, and Vanessa had made it clear, she didn't want a crying child ruining her dinner party. When he saw her laughing with a group of guests, Ethan took a small step forward, clutching his red toy car in his hand. "Stepmom," he called softly. No one heard him. The music grew louder. He tried again, "Vanessa." She turned sharply, her smile freezing when she saw him. A few guests glanced curiously. "Ethan," she said through clenched teeth, "what did I tell you about interrupting when I have company?" "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I just wanted to show you my car. Daddy said it's special." The words made her cheeks flush with irritation. "Go upstairs, now," she hissed, her voice low but full of warning. But Ethan didn't move. "Please, I just want to stay with you." At that moment, he stumbled slightly, his tiny hand knocking over a glass of juice from the nearby table. The red liquid splashed across Vanessa's white designer gown. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Vanessa froze. Her perfect night shattered in front of everyone. The guests looked away awkwardly, pretending not to see her eyes darken with rage. You little brat," she snapped. Ethan's eyes widened, tears filling them as she grabbed his arm. Maria, from across the room, rushed forward. "Ma'am, please," he didn't mean to. But Vanessa yanked Ethan away, dragging him toward the hallway. "He needs to learn some respect," she said coldly. Her heels clattered down the stairs as she opened the basement door. The lights flickered from the storm outside. Ethan cried softly, "Please, I'm scared of the dark." "You should have thought about that before embarrassing me," she snapped, pushing him gently but firmly down the last step. The door slammed shut behind him with a loud click. The sound echoed through the silent corridor. Vanessa took a deep breath, straightened her dress, and returned to her guests with a bright, fake smile. "Children," she said lightly, always testing patience. The room erupted in shallow laughter, and the party went on as if nothing happened. Down in the basement, Ethan curled up near an old storage shelf, his toy car clutched tightly in his hands. The thunder roared, and the dim bulb above flickered weakly. He whispered for Maria, his voice trembling. Hours passed. The party ended. The mansion grew silent again. Maria, cleaning the kitchen, realized she hadn't seen Ethan since the commotion. She asked one of the waiters, but no one knew where he'd gone. Her heart sank. She searched the rooms quietly until she heard a faint sound, a soft whimper beneath the floor. Her pulse quickened. She followed it to the basement door, where she pressed her ear and whispered, "Ethan. Are you down there?" A tiny voice answered, "Maria." Without hesitation, she turned the knob, locked. She grabbed the spare key from the pantry, unlocked the door, and rushed down. When she saw Ethan shivering in the corner, tears streaming down his cheeks, she dropped to her knees and wrapped him in her shawl. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered, holding him close. "You're safe now. I'm here." Outside, the rain poured harder, lightning flashing through the window. In that stormy night, Maria silently vowed she would never let anyone hurt this child again. The next morning dawned gray and heavy. The storm had passed, but the air inside the mansion still felt tense, thick with silence and unspoken guilt. Maria hadn't slept all night. Ethan lay curled on her small bed in the servants' quarters, wrapped in her shawl, his little face pale but peaceful at last. She'd kept him there after finding him in the basement, too afraid of what Vanessa might do if she saw him again. When dawn broke, Maria heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Her heart leapt. Mr. Reed was home. She hurried to the window and saw Alexander stepping out of his black car, suitcase in hand, his expression tired from travel. But there was relief in his face, the kind of relief that came from returning home, unaware of the storm that waited inside. In the grand hallway, Vanessa appeared at the top of the stairs in a silk robe, pretending calm. "Darling," she called sweetly, "you're back early." Alexander smiled faintly, setting his briefcase down. "Flight got in sooner than expected. How's everything here? Where's Ethan?" The question froze her for a split second. "Oh, he's fine," she said quickly. "Still asleep, I think. You know how kids are." Maria stood in the corner, gripping her apron, watching the exchange. Every instinct told her to stay quiet, but the memory of Ethan's frightened eyes gave her strength. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Sir, there's something you should know." Vanessa turned sharply. "Maria," she snapped, "not now. Go prepare breakfast." Alexander frowned. "No, let her speak." His tone carried quiet authority. "What is it, Maria. Maria swallowed hard. It's about Ethan, sir. Last night, Mrs. Vanessa locked him in the basement. Her voice shook, but her words were steady. He was there for hours, crying in the dark. I found him late at night. He was terrified. For a moment, silence filled the entire mansion. Then Alexander's jaw tightened. What did you say? His voice dropped low. Dangerous. Vanessa's face drained of color. She's lying, she blurted. You know how these servants exaggerate. The boy was being impossible during the party. Maria interrupted, her eyes welling with tears. Sir, please, I would never lie about something like this. He could have gotten sick, or worse. She held out Ethan's small red toy car. He was holding this when I found him. It was so cold down there. Alexander took the toy slowly, staring at it as though it burned his hand. His knuckles whitened around it. Without another word, he turned and walked toward the basement door. Vanessa followed, trying to explain, but her words stumbled over each other like excuses too late to matter. The door creaked open, and the truth stared him in the face. The small blanket Maria had wrapped around Ethan still lay on the floor, the light bulb flickering weakly, and a child's footprint smudged in dust near the stairs. Alexander turned back, his expression unreadable. You locked my son in there. His voice was low, cold, and trembling with restrained fury. Vanessa's lips quivered. He embarrassed me in front of everyone. It was just for a few minutes. Enough, he thundered, his voice echoing through the hall. Get out of this house. Now. Tears of rage filled Vanessa's eyes, but she knew from his tone there was no redemption left. She turned and stormed upstairs, her heels clattering like final nails on marble. Alexander stood silently, still holding the toy car. Then he looked at Maria. You saved him, he said quietly. If you hadn't been there, he couldn't finish. Maria lowered her gaze. He's a good boy, sir. He just needs love. For the first time in months, Alexander's hardened expression softened. Then that's what he'll have, he said, his voice steady but heavy with remorse. And as the morning light spilled through the windows, the mansion no longer felt hollow, it felt like a place ready to heal. A week passed since Vanessa had left the mansion, and slowly, the air that once carried the weight of arrogance and silence began to breathe again. The servants moved about freely without fear of her sharp tongue, and the sound of laughter, small, hesitant at first, began to echo from the garden. It came from Ethan. He was sitting on the grass in the backyard, carefully building a tower of small stones. Maria sat beside him, helping him balance each piece with patient hands. The sun was warm, and the scent of freshly cut grass filled the air. For the first time in months, Ethan's face was relaxed. The shadows under his eyes had faded, replaced by the innocent brightness of a child who finally felt safe. Alexander stood by the window, watching them. His expensive suit seemed out of place in this quiet, simple scene, but for once, he wasn't thinking about meetings or deals. He was thinking about how close he'd come to losing the only thing that truly mattered. Guilt gnawed at him, guilt for not seeing what was happening right under his nose. He walked outside, the crunch of his shoes on gravel making Ethan look up. The boy's face lit up instantly. Daddy, he shouted, running to him with open arms. Alexander knelt down and hugged him tightly, closing his eyes as emotion surged through him. I'm sorry, buddy, he whispered. I should have protected you. Ethan smiled softly, holding out his red toy car. It's okay. Maria did. Alexander glanced up at Maria, who stood a few steps away, shy and humble as always. She's the real hero here, he said quietly. You saved my son, Maria. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, sir, she replied. I just did what any mother would do. Those words struck something deep inside him, the word mother. For so long, he had been searching for structure and control after his first wife's death, but he had forgotten the heart that held a family together. And now, standing before him, Maria had done what money and power never could, she had restored warmth to his home. That evening, Alexander gathered the entire staff in the main hall. To everyone's surprise, he announced, from today, Maria will no longer serve as a maid. She will manage this home, and help me raise Ethan. Gasps and smiles spread across the room. Maria's eyes widened, her hands trembling. Sir, I'm not worthy of. You are, Alexander interrupted kindly. You've shown me what love and courage truly look like. Ethan ran to her, wrapping his tiny arms around her waist. Does that mean you'll stay forever? He asked hopefully. Maria knelt down and hugged him. Yes, sweetheart, I'll never leave you. The moment was pure, soft light spilling through the windows, the mansion glowing with life again. Later that night, Alexander stood by Ethan's door, watching as Maria tucked him into bed. The boy clutched his red toy car, smiling in his sleep. For the first time in years, Alexander felt peace. Good night, Maria, he said quietly. She smiled back. Good night, sir. As he turned off the lights, a sense of gratitude washed over him. The house that once echoed with loneliness now hummed with warmth and laughter. And down the hallway, the faintest giggle of a child blended with the whisper of the night, a promise that this home, once broken by greed and grief, had finally found its heart again.